Okay, we're right here.
You can.
You want me to go?
Yeah, I'll just jump in wherever I want. I got my hot drink to be comfortable, and I'm like sweating.
Oh, okay. So after we were done getting help from a friend, we can't nurse. We're not nursing right now. Want an apple? No? Do you want you want to eat?
No pressure. You don't want to like it. You don't want to share it. That's okay.
How are you a salesman?
That's how I sold.
I'm not.
But I had no pressure. That's how I sold a lot of things.
Every change has a reason. Baby, let it come to you. Every soul, every season lives outside of status quo. If we stop believing we're meant to be, expanding our abilities. If the passion's gone, we are doing it wrong. Baby, you and I should start living now. With the whole world at our feet, we could stay or we could leave. There is nothing in between. So baby, we should start living now. 'Cause we only have this life. Wanna laugh and wanna cry. I don't wanna waste my time. So baby, we should start living now. Baby, we should start living now. We are close, can you feel it? Something is behind the clouds. We just have to believe it, that we can make the sun come out.
Ready?
Yeah.
Welcome to part 2 of our story. Where did we leave off?
We had just got pregnant with Jesse and had no room for him in the Airstream.
Oh.
Well, we were pregnant and needed another bed and had no space in our Airstream to put a bed. I toyed with so many ideas, even trying to put a hammock above the foot of our bed. But the foot of our bed was how we got out of our room. It was just, there just wasn't any options. So we tried and it wasn't gonna work. We ended up putting the Airstream up for sale. And around that same time, I started going crazy with the clutter in our house and watched the minimalism documentary. If y'all have never seen that on Netflix, I highly recommend it. It's so inspiring.
I mean, with the minimalism, with everything in life, you can take the nuggets and then throw away whatever you don't want to apply to your life. So I think there's lots of great concepts in the minimalism, but obviously life's not always, depending on the stage of life you're in and the things that you're into, a strict adherence to that lifestyle is not necessarily.
I think
for you.
minimalism has a range, right? So there's clutter, and then there's like a lot of people that call themselves minimalists have a number, and you can only own so many items per person. But if you want to, say, be more self-sufficient or live off-grid, things like that, you're gonna need a lot more materials than somebody that lives in an apartment in the middle of the city. It just doesn't.
You need tools, and you need
yard tools, garden tools, and you need things to make bread with, and things to make your cheese with, and things to make your yogurt with, and you can't just, make it with your hair. Like, it doesn't work that way. So.
And when you have 8 kids, you need a certain amount of stuff.
You do.
It felt great to get rid of our junk.
We actually probably got rid of, while living in the house, probably 60% of our stuff.
I don't know how many trips to the thrift store.
And I was selling stuff.
We were selling a bunch, but we donated, I think.
A lot. We
Like,
filled
I
up the
feel
bin at the
like-
back of the thrift store multiple
I don't know
times.
how many times. They have a little small town, just a little bin there, and
We would load it.
I would just, every time we go, it's like full.
Yeah.
So.
But it just felt good every time we got rid of more stuff. It was a few less things to clean up.
Yeah.
It was a few less things to try to organize. It was a few less things to remember that I had. it was a few less things taking up space. And so cleanup, even for me, but also for the kids, became easier because they only had the toys that they liked playing with. And so finding them was easy and cleaning them up was easier because they weren't putting away all the stuff that they had dug out to get to the stuff that they liked. That was a big step along the way in this process of being able to live.
Heading towards living on a 320 square foot bus.
Yeah, with 8 kids.
So it didn't just happen overnight. Like everything, it's a process. So at that point, we had put the Airstream up for sale, sold it.
Who doesn't want an Airstream? We sold the Airstream, but we didn't have a plan initially to replace it. We decided at that point that we were going to take a trip overseas, our first trip overseas with our kids, and we planned a trip to go to Israel, Italy, and Germany. So we planned this trip, and just a few months before we were to leave, I was searching the used car listings like I had been doing for many years.
I mean, we started looking at buses
before we moved from Ontario.
before we moved back to Alberta.
And I would just scroll pretty regularly, and I'd see a great deal once in a while, but usually they were not in our province.
Yeah.
And then we'd have to deal with out of province inspections, and we didn't want to do it, so we would just let it go.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, I think we were 2 months before our trip, this bus
A great deal.
came up for
Another great deal appeared.
for a really good price. It was a 45-foot bus like I wanted. I knew we couldn't do a 40-foot because like literally every inch of space matters when you're 8 kids and 2 adults on a bus.
Yeah.
And that 5 feet made the difference of having our whole master bedroom. So
Yeah.
we had to have that. So we found this 45-foot bus.
Went, looked at it, took it for a test drive.
We got a full inspection done
Got
on
a
it.
full safety inspection.
The-
Asked them to make a list of the deficiencies. We then went back and were able to negotiate the price down even further a little bit.
And we were able to buy the bus for the same price that we sold the Airstream for.
Yeah.
So it was just worked out so beautifully.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had a lot of money to put into the bus. It was a 55 passenger, so it had all the seats in it. It had all
Yeah.
the original windows,
Yeah.
and so there was a lot of work. But we were heading out on a trip, so it got parked. When we got back home, it was full-on Canadian winter. It was cold.
Yeah, it was cold.
It was cold. We had
The van, I was like, wow, the van actually started at the airport parking because it wasn't plugged in.
After that, then we were home, even though it was winter. Michael was able to put a propane heater in the bus and start ripping things out.
Yeah, the thing with the bus is with all those windows, you kind of get a greenhouse effect. Even in the winter, it'll be like maybe 10 degrees warmer inside the bus. As soon as the sun hits those windows, and anyone who knows about Alberta, we get lots of sunshine all winter long. Big blue skies and lots of sunshine. So when the sun hit the windows, it made it tolerable in there with the propane heater, and I could do the tear out and get it all prepped. And then we worked on the bus for about 6 months, and that was, as you've seen in the videos, that was all the structure, that was the tear out, the building of the bench, the kitchen, bringing in the appliances, with lots of help from all the kids and from Sabrina.
I mean, I don't think I did a whole lot. I had a newborn baby.
She had the brain. But then I left the electrical, the plumbing, and the gas lines, left that undone until I could get help with it.
Yeah, after we worked on the bus for about 6 months, we moved in, hit the road, and we actually, our first stop, we came right down to Arkansas, where we are now. So
Yeah.
we came down here, and we actually made a friend right away that was able to help Michael with the electrical and the propane and the plumbing.
So I was able to pay that person to help me and really push and get those critical things done. And then at the same time, was learning. So it was really good. Worked
Great
out really
experience.
nice. And they were great friends. So we had a good time in the evenings and hanging out, and it was a lot of fun. So worked out really good.
So after Michael and our friend were done getting things finalized in the bus, we traveled for about 5 more months. 4 more months? 5?
November, December, January, 4 months.
So we traveled, we loved it. It was so much better than when we were traveling in the Airstream. The
Oh,
kids
yeah.
had their own space. We had a blast. It didn't feel so much like living in a trailer. It felt comfortable. It was great. We had so much space. I could cook anything
Oh.
in there. Food prep was so much more easy than it had been before. So So we loved it. And then we went back home in the spring, like we always do, and moved back into our house, which didn't feel so satisfying this time.
And then COVID hit the world.
We stayed home for 4 months. It was rough. We love being on the road. We love traveling. We love meeting new people. If we can't meet new people, we definitely want to be with our old people. And
Right.
they would allow for groups of maybe 10 to get together, but we were already 10. So that just made it, with a large family and the restrictions that
And
they
some
put
of
in place.
some of our very good friends also have large
They're
families.
also 10 or
So
12, so
getting together meant
not getting together.
not getting together.
We put our house up for sale. We had had it up for sale before that as well, and we didn't really get any bites. We took it off the market, and then so when we got back this time, we decided that we were going to put it up for sale, and the plan was to live full-time in the bus.
Yep.
So we started
Selling off all our stuff.
our furniture. Midsummer, we moved back into the bus, and we parked it on our empty lots that we owned that were just beside our property.
We basically wanted to empty out that house, which we did. Emptied it so that it was always ready to be shown. Even though we were out in the country, we didn't get a ton of showings, but we did get a steady clip.
And it was really hard to get ready for a showing. If say someone wants
Gather
to come,
8 kids up to
yeah,
get them out of the
get 'em
house.
out and clean up after them. And you're cleaning the house, but they're all still in the house, so trying to clean up after them and then get them out and then clean up that last few places they touched or stepped or whatever.
And we really enjoyed
was a
just being in
challenge.
the bus. So whenever we had a showing, it was like, yeah, anytime.
Yeah.
And we
House
were
was
we were in
ready.
the bus, and the house was always spotless for a showing.
So a lot less stress. The spot that we parked on our lots, on our empty lots, we actually had a really gorgeous view. It was a great summer there, even though we couldn't see anybody. We had just these huge trees, and Adri set up her hammock, and we had a lake view, and it was really nice last summer.
We made the best of it.
We did. We had a good time. Then in the fall, I had Levi. The last few babies that we'd had while we lived there, we had to drive 2 hours to our midwife.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't sure, with having had more and more babies, how long this one was going to take to come. I thought maybe he'd come a little bit faster, and so we actually just took the bus and moved it early, just before my due date, over to the city where my midwife was, and parked it there so that we were ready.
So we were in an RV park in October. Yeah, just before
Yeah.
October 20th.
Yeah. When we moved there, it was great. It was beautiful. And then within the week or two that we moved, the temperatures dropped.
The temperature dropped like to minus 10 Celsius, which is enough to cause problems like frozen pipes and
We thought we'd insulated our bus pretty well. We had
Yeah.
tried to plan for winter, but
Wasn't
because there
really
was no
so.
circulation where we ran all of our water lines behind the counters, they were freezing up inside the bus, even with insulation in the walls. And
yeah, I insulated the tank bay, so where the 2 water tanks are located. I had insulated that bay. I never thought the interior would be an issue. The pipes were freezing along the interior wall.
yeah.
So
So shortly after I had Levi, we decided we needed to get out of there because we weren't going to make it. And at the same time as all that, our house sold, so we didn't even have a
Yeah.
house to go back to.
we had gotten an offer just before the baby was born. It was finalizing literally as we were driving to British Columbia.
We were leaving.
We were heading and
Heading to BC. For anyone that lives in the U.S., that's just above Washington State. So
Right.
it's a lot warmer than where we're from in Alberta, which is just above Montana.
it's more like Seattle weather.
Yeah.
It's
very
rainy.
Rains
And
all winter.
You get a little flurries, you get a little bit of like a little bit of snow that melts away.
Nothing that was going to freeze our pipes or anything like that. That was in my
Beautiful
hand.
area
Yeah, and it was really nice, but
in the mountains.
the rain and the condensation started to become a huge problem
Mold
really
was
fast.
We were getting mold on the walls, and it just became stressful.
We originally put wood,
1/4-inch plywood.
1/4-inch plywood under the windows, and we had treated it with hemp oil, and it looked really nice. I loved that look. But condensation from all the metal trim on the windows was dripping down it all day, every day.
Yep.
And within only a matter of a couple of weeks, almost every
Just
bit of
because
that
it was
wood
constantly
was molding.
humid
Yeah.
and damp, so the wood couldn't dry out. It became an issue in British Columbia.
Yeah, and we were ripping out walls and
Chucking it out the window.
any of our stuff that would get left like under our couches near the wall or just in certain other areas was it would get wet and damp, and then it would mold, so we were throwing out more stuff. And we're fairly minimalist by this point, so our stuff was valuable to us at that point. It wasn't things that we never used. It's usually stuff we use a lot. So it was getting frustrating. It was getting to be a bit too much, and we decided
We had to figure out how to get down to the States.
we had to figure out how to get
But
to
there was a
go
problem.
south.
The governments had closed the land border crossing.
We couldn't drive over the border, and we needed our bus.
So we got real creative. And while they closed the land border, they were allowing flights in and out of the country. So for whatever reason, the governments in their great wisdom shut the land border crossing, allowed flights. So we booked 2 charter flights,
2 charter planes.
2 charter planes, Cessnas, 6-seater Cessnas. Half the family went in one charter, half the family went in another charter. And we basically went to the border town in British Columbia, flew 10 minutes and down.
Flew from one airport
From
to
one
the
airport
closest
to the
airport on other
closest
side.
airport on the other side of the border. So we flew into the States, and then we paid a shipping company, a trucking company, to get in our bus and drive it across the border, because truckers were essential workers at the time.
It didn't matter what they drove. They could drive our bus over the border.
That's
but
right.
we couldn't.
So they drove not just our bus, but they also drove our van. Literally, the fella hops in, because this trucking outfit is literally 5 or 10 minutes from the border, drove my bus across, jumped out, shook his hand and thanked him, and he walks back across the land border. And we jump in our bus and hit the
head
road.
south.
That was perfectly fine and legal. So these last 2 years have been a little crazy. We all just did the best we could.
So we came down and we parked ourselves in Louisiana, where we've been for the last year, just to wait out restrictions.
Decent weather. When I say decent, I mean not cold.
I don't know if Louisiana's decent. It's just the opposite end
But
of the
amazing, beautiful people that we
Yeah.
got to spend a year with.
Yeah, really great people.
Hospitable. If you've ever been down south, if you haven't, you have to.
Yeah.
The southern hospitality is a real thing. It's been a great year down here.
So here we are with 8 kids living full-time in a bus. Right now we're at an Airbnb, but we live full-time in our bus. We have some new adventures coming up in the near future for you, with a few surprises.
Some surprising twists and turns coming
Yeah.
very soon.
Very soon. So keep watching.
We're
I
excited.
want to say keep subscribing, but
Keep
you can only
subscribing.
subscribe one time.
Just keep liking and loving.
Keep and share.
And
Share.
share.
If you want to share our videos, we would love that you share our videos.
Share it. Don't share it. Who cares?
And thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.